Hey everybody, welcome to Mike's World. Mike Johnson here with you. Today we're going to go over scoreboards in OBS for sports and live streaming. I've had people ask me several times about how did I get the scoreboard in one of the live streams I did for high school football. I'll show you that right now. This is just a sample of a game that I streamed, a high school football game. You can see it's got a ticker at the bottom, running scoreboard, clock, all that kind of stuff. So people have asked me, how did I do that? Well, this is the first of two videos that I'm going to make explaining that. In this video, we're going to go over building a scoreboard in Photoshop. And the one I use particularly, I'm going to show that to you in the different layers. And then we're going to build a simple one. And then I'm going to show you how you can use that directly in Photoshop without the need for the Scoreboard Plus app or anything like that. And then afterwards, we are going to use the Scoreboard Plus software that is a free plugin for OBS. And I'm going to show you how that works in the controller. And we'll go over the pluses and minuses for both of these. They both work great. You need to have the Scoreboard Plus plugin if you want to have a running clock. There is ways, which I don't get into, about how you can sync that to the controller at the game if you have access to it, if you're a school that's doing live streaming. But you can also control the clock yourself, which is what I do. I start and stop it, and if it gets off just a little bit, you can easily just adjust it. So that's what I do. But first of all, we're going to take a look here at Photoshop. So let's take a look at that. And if you take a look here, you've got this basic scoreboard right here that I have created. So I have right down here in the far left side, I have the Sports Zone Oklahoma logo. I've got each team. I've got a box here that's for each quarter, and then a box for each score. And then I left room over here if you want to have a sponsor. Now, I also have this black layer down here, and that is there if I have a running ticker like the example I had showed you before. And I'm just going to switch off some of these layers to kind of show you what each one looks like. So if I don't want to have that running ticker underneath and I just want the scoreboard, I can easily turn that off. And we're actually going to be using the Photoshop file inside OBS. We're not going to save this as a PNG because then you have to change it each time. We're going to keep it as the Photoshop file, and that's extremely important because when it comes time, if you want to use just this in Photoshop and change the scores within Photoshop, it will change the scores in OBS automatically, and it's a great thing. There's just a couple situations you got to think about. One being is how you have your hotkey set up in OBS, because that can definitely mess up as you're trying to change your scoreboard in Photoshop. But I'm going to turn that lower layer back on. And so this is it. So like I said, the black layer, that is only on if I have a ticker. And then let's just click through some of these. So we have behind, look at that transparent. So we start off with a black square behind that's transparent. And so if I were to click the effects here, I'll move this over here so you can see it. You see my opacity is set at 80%. And I have a stroke on too. It's a very small one. It's white. It's a very, very, very subtle. And during the video or during the live stream, it turns out looks really good. So that's what we have for the effect for that. Our next one is our away team box. So if you notice, it's just black. If I turn off the logo, let me find it. It's just a square box that lays in there, and then my logo will lay over top the edge, so it just looks like it's all built into one. Same way on the other side. If I turn off the PC North, that's the name. If I turn off the logo, it's just a square box. And then if I lay the logo over top in here, it looks like it's all kind of built into one. I have the name for each one here, and if I turn those off, those layers, easy. The type of text that I'm using for this is Beavis New. I think I'm saying that correctly. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the text I'm using for the names. And then I also have all these layers. If I'm not going to be changing them, I have them within a folder here called Layers over here on the right. And and then I just kind of have the ones on that I would want to change. There's my sponsor logo on and off. There's the Sports Zone logo. And then up here under another one is scores. So within scores, I have each quarter. Like now I've turned them on. So you have each quarter. And all you have to do really to change it is double click on this, hit 2, Control S. So by doing that, if this is in OBS, when I change that quickly by double clicking on the text, we'll change it to 3. And I hit Control S, it automatically saves it and it automatically changes it within OBS. And I'll show you how that works here in just a little bit. But this is how you can change it. So this first score, if they score a touchdown, 6, Control S. And then they get the extra point, 7, Control S. And I'm using football as a reference because that's mostly what I do is football games. Same way with the away score, they score 6, Control S, and that automatically saves the Photoshop file. And you just kind of do that as you go. And if you're not worried about a clock, this is probably your best option. It's simple and easy. The only thing you really need to do is if you're using a laptop or any computer, you need a dual screen. So you need a second screen so that you can have your main screen running OBS and your alternative or side screen running Photoshop, so you're not trying to cram them all on the same screen. And to show you just quickly, we have right now, I'm showing you the Photoshop screen, which is my external monitor. But if I switch over, here's my OBS, which is on my main laptop screen. All this right here. So that is, that's how all that's working. So let's go back to the Photoshop screen. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to, since I've showed you this, I want to clear these out. 0, double click on home, 0, double click on away, 0. And then you could just play around with how you like, what kind of scoreboard do you like? Do you want it down here? Do you like it up top? Do you want a small one in the corner? Do you like a small one here in the center? Kind of like what the NFL is kind of doing now with some of their games. It's whatever you like. This is what I liked, this setup. And quickly what I can show you is when I decide when it's a different game or a different team playing, a question I'm sure you're wondering is, well, how do you change this stuff or change the logo and all that? And so what I do is, let's minimize the scores and let's go back to layers. So let's start off with this Putnam City North logo, which is the paw, the panther paw. So if I want to change what I'm doing, well, these color backdrops are easy to change, and all you have to really do with those is over here is change your color palette. And let's say we want this green, hang on. So let's say we just want it green for whatever reason. Or you know what, let's not do green. Let's do orange. We want to change it from red. I changed it. Let's say we want to do orange. So that's and then all we do is make sure we've highlighted the home team box. We go up here and we're going to do the paint bucket and we are just going to change that. And there you go. Pretty simple to change your color. And then obviously it's pretty simple to change the name. You just type a new name. But the logo does get a little bit more difficult, but it's not that hard. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to highlight layer 2. Actually, I'm going to rename that PC North logo. PC North logo. Just keep it. And then you'll see another one. I have PCN logo, and that's because there's two different logos for that school. So I just turn on the one I want. They've been using the Panther Paw more recently, so that's why we have that up here. But let's say we want to replace that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to find. I am going to open, and I am going to go find. Let's go to graphics. Let's go to logos, and I'm just going to find any logo that I want to replace. How about the Ardmore Tigers? Let's open Ardmore Tigers. So I double click, it opens in Photoshop. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to crop that about like that. And I'm going to hit enter. And obviously there's some white around this tiger, so I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to change this background. I'm going to change it to a layer. And I'm going up here and I'm going to use the magic wand, and I'm just going to select and delete. Select and delete. It's kind of hard to see. I get it. It's a small logo. And I took away the white, so now I just have the tiger. Now I'm just going to select all. Copy. I'm going to close the original and not save it. And then I'm going to go up here to edit, and I'm going to paste. And you'll see this tiger showed up, and it's kind of small, but I'll drag it over top the current one. Control T to change your to be able to change the size. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it until it automatically sinks in there. I'm going to move it over a little bit, which is good. And I'm going to turn off the logo that's behind it. And there, I've changed the logo. So if this were, let's say it's not PC North. Let's say it's, it's Ardmore. So now we have the Ardmore Tigers. And of course, we could change the backdrop to whatever we want. But we've quickly changed the logo, and we've changed the name. And we could do the same over here with another team. I'm going to Control Z and undo everything I just did, because I don't want to change this scoreboard permanently. So there you go. That is pretty much how my scoreboard is set up, how I can quickly change that scoreboard to make it whatever I want. But let's say you want something different, or let's say you're doing baseball. I mean, you really do anything, and it's just all controlled over here on the right in the layers section. And I'm assuming that most of you who are watching this already know Photoshop. So that's why I'm just kind of breezing over some of this stuff. And if you do know Photoshop, you probably already know how to make this stuff. But let's go ahead and we are going to close. We're going to actually open a new project, and we're going to build a scoreboard, and then we'll be done with this video, at least for showing you. So quickly, when I stream, everything I stream typically is 1280 by 720, but I still make all the graphics in 1980. So I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to close my old one. And I'm going to say, no, I don't want to change any of the changes. Okay, so we have a blank slate. And so now we are going to create a scoreboard, brand new scoreboard. And you start with a blank transparent layer. And the first thing we're going to do is we're not going to make one identical to the one that I just showed you, because you've already seen that. Let's make one up here for this corner. Let's make a simple one, scoreboard. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to change our color to black. So we're going to go down here to the rectangle tool. We've changed our color to black to start, because that's going to be our base layer right here. And we're just going to create a scoreboard. Let's say we want it about that size. And it's black. So there you go. That's the layer. And I'm going to go down here into my layers, and I'm going to rasterize that. Cancel. Rasterize that layer. And then I'm going to go into the effects, and I'm going to just back that down to about, let's say 70%. And that just made it transparent. And then we also, one of the things I also like to do with these backgrounds is I like to do either a stroke or an outer glow. So let's do an outer glow, but I make it very small, very, very small. Just a little bit of a glow. So 8, maybe 8 or 9. You can play with it, see what you like. I've got it as a soft light. Just a little bit of a glow on the outside. And then what we're going to do next is we are going to make 2 little scoreboards, or two little lines in here, boxes for the teams that are playing each other. So I'm going to use my old high schools as an example. So let's say we're going to do Southeastern versus Unioda. Southeastern is royal blue, white and black. Unioda is purple and gold. So let's do a blue box and a purple box. So let's start off with the blue box. So we'll go up here and find the color we want, and I want pretty much royal blue. And I'm going to create a box with inside that. And it doesn't have to be exact to start out, because we can always adjust. So let's say, how about that? That's pretty good. That looks about right. Let's see. I can move that a little bit. That's good. And then because I want the exact same dimensions, I'm going to rasterize that box. Then I'm going to duplicate it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull down. I'm just going to use my down arrow to move. Oh, hang on a second. So there's my copy. Sorry, I didn't see that. Okay. And then I'm just going to move this down here like that. And then I'm like, well, yep, that looks pretty good, but maybe that's not quite. Let's see. We'll go there, and maybe the other box needs to be moved up one spot. So, yep, that looks about right. That's what I want right there. And so the next thing I'm going to need, and I'm going to go back and adjust these and add, stroke and things like that to these. But first and foremost, I want to have a base to play with. But the first, what I am going to do right now, though, is I'm going to go ahead. I've got layer 2 selected, which is down here. And I'm going to go ahead and find the color I want. And that's about good for Unioda. So we will change that box. And so the next thing we're going to do is we want our score boxes. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to create identical boxes as far as the size as these, but they're going to be white and they're going to be square and they're going to go right here and right here. So one of the other things you could do sometimes is you could extend this out and then lay the white box within this bigger box, but I'm not going to do that here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change my color to white or black. So it depends. Do you want white letters over black or black letters over white? I'm going to do black numbers over white. So I've got white. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create just a box, and it doesn't even have to be perfect, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to match it up, and I'm going to hit Control T, and I'm going to try to match it to, and that looks really good. There we go. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Layers. We'll rasterize that layer because it's done. And then I'm going to duplicate that layer. And we'll pull that down. Line it up. Right there's good. So now we have our base layer for Scoreboard, base layer, we have our score box. And then what we're going to do over here is create a box for the quarter. And it's not going to be centered. And actually, you know what we're going to do? I'm just going to change this up just a little bit different than what I thought. So I'm going to change this black box, and I'm going to pull it. Oop, and I made a mistake there. Got to unlink it, and I'm going to hit that, and then we're going to go. That looks really good, right like that. Okay, and so then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate that layer, and watch what I do here. So we'll duplicate. We'll pull this over. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to, we'll highlight that layer. I'm going to hit Control T. But I'm going to turn off, or I'm going to turn on my linking at first. Small, and then I'm going to turn it off. I just want a small box. Hit Enter. And then I'm going to slide it over till it connects, right like that. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and this last score box that I made, I just turned it on and off. I'm going to duplicate that again. And I'm going to slide that over. Slide that up. Right like that. And that looks pretty good, except, you know, I don't really want it to be the same size as the score. I want it to be smaller. So I'm going to move it like that. I'm going to center it about like that. And then what I'm going to do is go back to this duplicate layer. Cancel. Control T. We'll keep it. Actually, I don't want to keep it linked. I'll be able to move it. And then you can hit Control plus to zoom in, which is what I'm going to have to do here. And when I zoomed in, see, I've got some differences here on my boxes. So which box am I on? So I'm going to fine tune some of this stuff. And that makes that about right. We got this box, and then Control T gives you a little bit more control. You zoom in. Okay, so there. So now I have, I'll zoom out just a little bit. So now I have my kind of corner scoreboard set up. Got some transparency here. We'll put the names in. So let's go with white for the names. We'll go, that might be a little big. I'll have to change it in a second. Yeah, it's really big. So south, let's just do that, and then we'll change it first. Change the size. Let's do 20. Not 203, we want 20. That's still big. Let's do 15. And finish typing it out. Southeastern. Right there. And then we want the other to be Untitled. Now, of course, I can just duplicate this layer. And then I pull it down. And then I will double click and I'll change it to Untitled. And there you go. We have that quick scoreboard set up. Southeastern Untitled, pretty basic. So with this basic scoreboard, you could use this for football. You could use it for basketball. You could use it for baseball. You know, with the inning being here. So let's go ahead and continue on and change our color to black, because we're going to put our scores and our numbers here and our quarter here. So and then also, you know, for this, what I'll do here is you can change this if you want, type it out differently, or you can create a layer for each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, F for final, H for halftime, or you can just type it in. It's whatever you feel comfortable. Typing is probably the fastest way, and it's less confusing. You don't have as many boxes. So let's start out with zeros. And that just made it. We've got to go up here and change this to black. And we'll center that up with, that looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to duplicate that. And I'm going to drag it down. And centered. And then we're going to make a 1 for first quarter. And of course, you know, it's too big, so we have to make that smaller. So let's try 10 points. Let's do 9. Want it a little small. And right about there is my first quarter. And of course, like I said, you can change that to final. You can change it to halftime. You know, whatever you want to do, and you hit control. And we haven't saved this as a name yet, so I'm going to save as before I do anything else. And I'm going to here, graphics, logos. Let's do graphics. I think I had scoreboards saved here somewhere. Yeah, Sports in Oklahoma, and I'll just save this as SE SE versus Unioto. And saves it as a Photoshop file. And this pops up, maximum compatibility. Just click OK. So there we go. So now we have Southeastern versus Unioto. If I view and put this on fit to screen, there's our scoreboard. Pretty basic one. This is a basic one, but it's clean. It's nice. It looks somewhat professional. And then what you do is, what I would do is after I've made all my layers, I'd go over here and let's click on and off. And I would call this, I rename these because I want to know what they are. It's easier. So I'm going to call it quarter. Home score. Oops, sorry. Well, trying to get it to rename. There it is. Away score or visitor score, either one. We have Union and Southeastern for names. We're going to call this quarter box. We'll call this away box, away score box. Call this one home score, or no, that's the away score. Messed them up. Away score box. Change this one to home. Home score box. This one is going to be home box. Home name box. That one visitor or away. Away name box. We're going to call this one quarter base box. And then we're going to call this one base box. Okay, and from there, we've pretty much built our scoreboard. And for the quarter, if I come up here on the right side where the layers are, and I just double click on the T, I can change this by hitting a 2 and then Control S, and it saves it. Now, you will notice it kind of off-centered depending on the number. That's something you might have to get used to if you're going to do it this way. If I hit a 3, Control S, that stayed centered. But if I go back to 1, Control S, okay, so that's pretty good. Away home score, same thing. Click on it. 6, Control S. This is really good. This scoreboard would work very well for football and baseball, or any sport or anything you're keeping track of with a score where there's not like quick, rapid scoring. It's probably not the best for basketball just because the scoring is happening so fast. And then, of course, you know, if you this is, like I said, this is the Photoshop way of using a scoreboard in OBS with just Photoshop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my other screen. So just 1 second here. Here's my OBS screen, and you see over here is preview where I had the scoreboard, and over here is the actual what you're seeing. So, but what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go over to, this is one of my other things I have. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to leave a black screen here, but even though you're seeing the stream, because this is where I'm going to work. So this isn't, you know, in the preview, I'm just going to show you what this would look like. So under this tab for live, I have a black screen here, but I'm going to go ahead and add my layers here. And so, you know, I had some other filters already turned on. That was a backdrop. There's my red zone bug for another show I do. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to add this scoreboard. We're going to add, let's go back over here. We're going to add this scoreboard to the preview screen, the other preview screen. So what I do is down here in OBS, I just click and I add image, and we're going to call it Scoreboard. Now I got to go find it. So you got to remember where you saved it, which I think I saved it in graphics. Sports in Oklahoma. SE versus Unioto right here. So I'm going to click that, and it just added that. So I hit OK. So now you see up here in this box, here's a scoreboard. And so that would normally lay over any kind of video you have. And you know what? Just for the heck of it, let's do this. Let's put me on, and let's add that scoreboard. I've already done it, so we can add it. Click OK. And then once it's up there, you can move it wherever you want it. So let's say, because my head's here, let's say I want it over here. So there you go. You can move the scoreboard around anywhere you want. You just drag it. You know, you can put it back down here if we want. We can put it over here. I kind of like it up in the top right corner. It just depends. I mean, depends on what you want to do. And then you can have a bug in there as well for something else. But here's our scoreboard. So that being said, and you see it right here. You see it right here. So let's. So I'm going to show you really quickly what it looks like on the air when I change it in Photoshop. So off screen, what you're not going to see. I'll click back over here for a second. So here it is. I showed you guys on the side how you change all the stuff over here. So that being said, we're going to go back to me with the scoreboard, and what you're going to see now. Let's go. So now I'm full screen, but over here off screen, here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to change the quarter, and I'll walk you through as I do it. So I'm double clicking. I've highlighted the 1. I'm going to hit 2, Control S, and you see it changed it. If I go to score, let's go home score, and I double click, and they scored a touchdown. So I hit 6, Control S, and it changes it. All I'm doing is making changes in Photoshop, and it's changing the scoreboard on your screen. So away score, 7, Control S. There you go. So that is the basics for a scoreboard within using Photoshop and using a scoreboard in OBS. It's very simple, very clean. You can make any kind of design you want. But the other thing is too, is this is also how you can create a scoreboard and then use it later with the Scoreboard Plus. And I'm not going to go into Scoreboard Plus right now and show you everything about it. But I think I am going to go ahead and show you really quickly how that works once it's set up. So another video later on will show you how it's set up. But I'm going to go back to the Photoshop screen. Okay, so if you want to use this scoreboard and you want to use it in OBS, but you're wanting to use the Scoreboard Plus app, which has a controller, which is really nice and it's quick and easy. All you have to do is you keep this design, but you just turn off your score and quarter layers. That's all you have to do, and then you save that. You can either save it as the Photoshop, and I can just hit Control S and save it, and then it's ready to go. Or you can save it as a PNG and bring it in separate, or ping file, or whatever you want to call it. So let's go back to this screen right here. Okay. And so what you want to do is, once you have this screen up, you need to add your score layers. And so quickly what I will show you is, if I go back to this screen, I'm going to minimize, and I'm going to go into and it's popping up the other screen. Let me pull it over here. All right, go into Documents, and I've already installed it. So here it is, Scoreboard. And I open up Scoreboard, and here is the Scoreboard application. And if I open that, this is what you get. This is how I'm going to be able to control the scoreboard. You can set the time, you can do scores, you can do quarters, and when you click, it changes them. So, or you can go by 2 if you're doing basketball, and you quickly the different scores. If you mess up, you can go back at any point. You can change, you can change all this. You can reset the timer, reset the scores, goes to 0. Like I said, quarters here. You can set a clock. So let's say I set it, we have 12-minute quarters. And then the way this works is once this is all on your screen in OBS and you've inserted these layers, I hit start and I have a clock that runs down. This will be on your screen. Click stop to stop it. There are in these settings always on top. Now, this is important. If you're going to use this timer, you have to keep the scoreboard, this thing, on top of all other windows, or else the clock starts glitching. But otherwise it works really well. There's sound settings, hotkey setups, preset timers for quarters. There's a lot of different things you can do in here. You can also somehow sync this thing to the actual score clock or whatever, the board at your at the high school. If I'm not real familiar with how to do that. I haven't tried to do that. I think it's under remote here, and you have to link up and everything. So, but that's possible. So, that being said, this is the controller, and when I start inserting this stuff in the in OBS, you'll see how it pops up, and then we'll go back and I'll show you how it controls it. So that being said, over here in this side, there's a folder called Output. And if you see that, you're going to see these little text documents, away name, away score, all that, because you can actually put the name in here as well. But I created my own scoreboard, so I just want the scores in the quarter. That's all I want. But this is where you find it, and this is where we're going to insert into OBS. So let's click out of all this. Now let's take a look at all this, and let's go ahead and insert some scoreboards. So I'm going to go ahead and put me in the preview here so I can show you what I'm doing. And this is going to be a little bit, and actually here's what I'm going to do. I am going to take this scoreboard, and I know this isn't how you would normally do it, but I'm going to go ahead and make this really big over top me. And I'm doing that so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. Okay, so we have the scoreboard within our Cam 1 shot. And you see up here, it says scoreboard right here, and that's your scoreboard. Now we need to put the numbers in. So all you do is go down and add, and we're going to go to text GDI, and we're going to just call this home score. Click OK. And then under here, what we're going to do is find, where's it at? Read from file. We're going to click that. And then under here, we're going to hit browse. And this is where we're going to the documents. We go to the scoreboard, and we go to output. And we want the home score, so we are going to hit home score and select that. And it's giving me a big old 0. And so what I'm going to do is I click, let's see here. We are going to alignment, center, top. So center alignment, top. And you can even do an outline if you want, which kind of looks kind of neat, but depends on what you want. Now we want to select the color because we want black. And let's see, where's it at? That was the background color. We want color, select color, black. Okay. And that's going to change our 0 to black. And then what I'm going to do, this is the home score. So I'm just going to drag it down here, right like that. And if I want to go in there again and adjust it, let's see here. Text transform. I was seeing if I could change the text. There's Arial. Okay, select. Let's see if that, what I've been using. There it is. Baby's Nui. We're going to select that. Click OK. And now our score is going to match. Our score number is going to match our it's going to match our name. So we're just going to put this over here, right like that. You can play with it, move it around, I'm just giving you a sample. Same thing for the away score, or yeah, the away score is we're going to click text GDI. Away score, click OK, and you have to set all this again. And you can't just duplicate like you do in Photoshop, because these are linked. These are linked to that scoreboard console I showed you just a little bit ago. So you actually have to go in here and recreate these, each one. Let's see, away score. I didn't change the color. And we had to read from file, browse, and away score. And then I need to change the color again to black. Click OK. And now we're going to pull that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put it, I'm going to try to match it up to this bottom one, and then I'm just going to drag it up here. And you can use the little arrow keys on your keyboard to change it, to move it around. And so that looks about right. It's pretty close. You know, you can play with it. And then the last one we're going to add in is we're going to do quarter. So we'll add the quarter in, we'll select our font. Click OK. We are going to read from file, and we are going to browse, and we're going to go to period. Open that, change it to black. And I keep getting messed up here. Change it to black, and then from there, we are going to drag this over here, and it doesn't have to be the same size because it's obviously a smaller box. Something like that. So there is your scores, and then what happens is when you open that controller, so give me 1 second, I'll open that up. Remember, it's in Documents, Scoreboard, and Scoreboard. And close this. And so now, here's our scoreboard. And when I change the quarter on the scoreboard, it's going to change. There's a little bit of a delay. But I change it, it changes. Change the score. There's 2. Free throw 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3 to 7. You know, if you do it quickly, you don't see it count up on the score. And that pretty much is it. And then you can also do the same thing if you have a box for your clock. You just insert the clock, and then you would set your time, and it would actually show up on here and everything like that. So I'm going to reset the score and pull the quarter to 1. Now, there is no halftime or final for that box when you're, you know, this would work for soccer too, I guess, but there's all kinds of, it goes all the way up. But keep in mind, you know, you get past the single digits, it's going to be off center. But there you go. You can close this. There's your clock or your scoreboard. And there's the issue though. If you move the scoreboard, then you got to move everything else. That's pretty much it, you know, for all that. Again, you know, you can go back to, again, I like to go back. I like to control Photoshop directly and use this. I like using this setup if I don't have a clock. I just think it's easy to do. It's quick. The only caveat here, and I said there was pluses and minuses, the plus to using the scoreboard controller is the quick and easy. It changes the scores. You're not going to mess anything up. And you can continue to set up your hotkeys for OBS, which is like, you know, enter is cuts. So you don't have to mouse click. You can use set up keyboard shortcuts. Problem is that you have to be very careful if you're going to use Photoshop to change to change scores and all that, that you're going to be using numbers. You're going to hit Control S. So you got to make sure that any numbers that you might use, the F button for final, H for halftime, any number or letter that you're going to use in Photoshop to change scores, Control S, all that, that you don't use those keys when setting up hotkeys within OBS, because you go to hit, if you have Enter or you have Control as one of your, let's say that's your stinger transition. Well, when you go to change in Photoshop a score and then hit Control S, as soon as you hit Control, that stinger is going to transition in OBS because it can't distinguish between the two. So it's very important to be careful with that. But this is very simple with Photoshop, whereas the scoreboard controller is not necessarily as it's fine. It can control the scores and everything. The thing is the clock can get sluggish. You have to keep that controller on the top screen, and starting and stopping, there can be a delay compared to real time. So sometimes when I was streaming football, I used it, but during a timeout or when the clock stops, I might be off by 4 seconds, and I might have to reset it. And so and that's not real professional, but that's the best you can do. But it is nice to have a clock if you need one within OBS. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching. It's been kind of a long video, but this is how you can make your scoreboard, set it up for both for Photoshop use in OBS or to use the Scoreboard app. I will have another video coming up soon. There will be a link to it in the description. It will be a lot more in-depth about where to download the Scoreboard app, how to save it, how to install it, and we'll go more in depth with adding a clock and all the other things that that program can do within OBS. So thank you for watching. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Always like the video. Please leave your comments, and we'll see you next time. Take care.